Good morning, it's Media Center Ukraine, Odesa, and we are starting our day today from the online briefing with Matej Kandrik, Director of Adapt Institute in Bratislava. Matej, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. And as you probably know, the results of elections in Slovakia are being highly discussed even inside Ukraine. How do you think, what can be the general consequences of the result of this election when party which is considered, well, maybe not pro-Russian, but somehow influenced by Russia as a winner in these elections? Sorry, Matej, we have no sound for some cause. Can you start over? Maybe it's okay already.
I would like to start with putting a few facts about the elections for your viewers who might be not that familiar. We had the early parliamentary elections last Saturday in Slovakia, and elections were won by party Smer, Social Democracy, led by Robert Fico, who was already a two-time prime minister here in Slovakia. The position of his party and his personal stances changed dramatically in last 2 years, and from a party which was fairly pro-European, pro-NATO, they reinvented themselves in area of going more to the voters who are national populists, maybe also with some mixture of some anti-establishment systems, especially since COVID. Robert Fico and his party start to change dramatically and use very aggressive rhetorics, even features of disinformation narratives to support their cause and mobilize their voters through use of fear, frustration, and struggle. The country went through COVID and then the energy crisis and rising inflation. All these factors helped win elections. And right now we are in the period when parties are negotiating the forming of the new next government. Right now we don't know what kind of government will be formed. There are several scenarios on the table which are plausible. There are scenarios which, of course, involve Smer as the victor of the elections, forming the government with some other parties like Hlas, which is a party which split from Smer after elections in 2020, or Slovak National Party. There are also different options, and we also have, I think, luckily, option which would be pro-European, but will consist of very different parties with different agendas, going from Christian Democrats to progressives, from liberals to really conservative parties. So right now we simply don't know what kind of government we will have. In a case there will be formed government by Hlas, Smer, and the Slovak National Party (SNS), there are of course some concerns about the foreign policy orientation of the country, because especially regarding Mr. Fico and his party, his talking points, especially if we speak about Ukraine, are unfortunately virtually the same as Viktor Orban's. So the narratives we hear from Smer are like there should be no further military support to Ukraine. Ukraine should be pressured to turn to peace negotiations as soon as possible. Any further ongoing fights are just suffering for Ukraine, and we should seek peaceful solutions. In this area, Viktor Orban in Hungary and Robert Fico in Slovakia, if he will be the next prime minister, will be very close to each other in their positions. And that's where the potential problems might come from. Honestly speaking, Slovakia just alone is not a country of such importance or weight within the European Union and or NATO to really cause significant disturbances in supporting Ukraine from the international partners. But if Orban and Fico will push together, especially within the European Union, they might cause more troubles than just alone. and they might use each other as buddies to shield themselves from pressure and potential counter moves from European Commission. That kind of scenario could be troubling for Ukraine, and it's also troubling, of course, for Slovakia, because picture of our country in foreign media, in foreign forums, in international community will suffer. And I would say it's already getting worse because foreign leaders are worried what might come out of our elections right now. But at the same time, it's really important to stress this is not given. There are options for different governments, for governments which are supporting Ukraine loudly, these parties and their leaders for a long time. And also in the campaign, they all articulated that further support of Ukraine from their side is their strategic priority, and it's very important thing to continue with. So I can say we are right now on crossroads, and we will know more after the new coalition government will be formed.
Thank you. When I was today's morning scrolling newspapers about news medias about to prepare for the briefing, I saw the media reported that Slovak president already denied weapons support for Ukraine because of the election results. How do you think, is it true? Because it was media reported, not official statement. And is it possible for the president of Slovakia to somehow try to predict the foreign policy course and narrative which is going to happen in the future?
I'm not aware of such news, so it's hard for me to comment on it. I think when we are speaking about the weapons deliveries, there are two different things. One level of deliveries are weapons and ammunition and other kinds of military support, which is going directly from the stockpiles of the Slovak armed forces. And as far as I know, for quite time, there are no more deliveries because we've actually really sent everything what we already could, from S-300 air defense system to MiG-29 jets to other weapons and munition. And our stockpiles are already on low level, so we are not really able, even if we want to support Ukraine further. And on the other level, there is these commercial deals where, of course, the Slovak defense industry is producing ammunition, Hufficers, Zuzana 2, and other systems for Ukraine directly as commercial deals. And these are either paid by foreign partners, European Union, or directly by the Ukraine. And there, I think, is very limited space for the state really to intervene to this support. Of course, it would be possible, but it would be very damaging for any government to actually go and cut the commercial deals, especially because locally it would mean troubles in the sense of employment. These factories are employing quite a lot of people on local level. Of course, industry invested heavily in increasing its production capacities. And right now, if the government would meddle with their business, it would cause really. I wouldn't be surprised even to see a series of bankruptcies across the defense industry in Slovakia, which I can't say would be really in the interest of any government, and it would cause a lot of pressure and media interest. So I don't think right now this is a course where we are going to.
I'm asking because in our country, the majority of big weapon and munition factories and plants are state-owned or state-controlled. And if in Slovakia it's not like that, it's, well, pleasant to hear for me at the moment. In summer, there was a media reported about joint weapon production, Ukraine and Slovakia. It was about howitzer 155 millimeters based on Susanna, if I'm not mistaken, and the factory Constructa. Am I right to understand that this is privately owned factory like other munition factories in Slovakia, and that's the agreement between private companies, not the government of your country?
This is a little bit complicated, to be honest. The ownership structure of Constructa and the other holdings, because they are the member of broader holding DMD, is mixed. There are private owners and there are also ownership from the state. Actually, if we speak specifically about the Constructa, I believe it's majority in the state hands, but also with a strong presence of private capital. And about the level or in the holding, I think that's majority in private hands. So actually the situation is quite complicated, but these companies are not fully or directly owned by the state. There is always some private capital.
I understood. And I would like to return to the question of NATO and Euro Union, because for Ukraine it's very important to have united voice support, one voice support from all the countries. And how do you think, in case Fico will manage to lead a government and to form a government from the parties you mentioned, is it possible for him to somehow influence on the NATO course, pro-NATO and pro-Ukrainian course in NATO and in Euro Union? Will it be possible for him so fast to start somehow influence and break this support, this united support?
Yes, sure. Possible, yes. Plausible, maybe not that much. For one specific reason. Fico is a very pragmatic politician. Some would call him also opportunistic and populist. And right now, his biggest issues are lying in domestic politics, not in foreign politics, as his party and many of his nominees and even members of the party are under criminal investigations in some high-level corruption cases. His priority number one is to stop those investigations. He already announced it. I think it was the very first release after the elections when he said, like, there will be changes at the special prosecutor office and at the position of the police president. That those people must go, and that's, I think, the vector when he will be most active in coming months. In years, he really needs to stop those investigations and suppress critical voices coming from media, civil society organizations, activists, etc. So to have some kind of like a piece for suppressing the opposition back home and cutting all investigations which are ongoing against his members of his party or nominees of his party from previous period, I think he wouldn't be really causing too much of troubles on international level, because he would maybe think in a way that, okay, I can trade my international support for Ukraine on the NATO and European Union level, for especially some kind of blind eye from European Union to rule of law situation, status of democracy within the country. I think that's the kind of bargain which he would be able to make, and lines according which he would be able to think. Also, Slovakia is, economically speaking, not in the best place. We have still a problem with inflation, and public debt is growing very quickly. Any new government will have to come with some austerity measures to tackle these problems down. And without European funds, it would be almost impossible to keep the economy of Slovakia afloat. So again, also from European Union position, I think there is a room for negotiation and pressure. Fico, if we would be trying to gamble with Slovak foreign policy orientation and Slovak support on Ukraine.
Thanks. After the elections, Ukrainian media remembered about the case of the murdered Slovak journalist in 2018, as far as I remember. After that tragedy, Prime Minister Fico had to resign. And also some Ukrainian journalists remembered about allegations allegations about connections between Fico and even cartel of Calabrian mafia and 'Ndrangheta. Is it still a topic in Slovak media? Did it somehow influence the will of the people when they were voting actually for this party or for other parties?
Yes. Well, I think that the most impactful events which directly influence the result of the elections and decision of voters in Slovakia actually happened between 2000 and 2020, 2023. In 2020, we got a new government which was formed by parties which the joint program was basically trying to clean the state from the mafia connections. The program was anti-Fico, to put it in one word, and that government ruled with constitutional majority. They got a really strong mandate from the voters. Unfortunately, due to their incompetence and complete chaotic kind of rule, in 3 years we ended up with majority government and soon afterwards with caretaker government and early elections. So to be completely honest, to a huge degree, the result of the elections are on the shoulders and the former government is to be blamed because their rule was really so catastrophic that the people were really angry, anxious, and frustrated. They even decided to go vote for Smer before, even if they 3 years ago supported their ousting from the power and supported the vision of clearing the state and fighting with the oligarchy influence in Slovak politics. And it can be really described on so many examples. I think the most impactful from the perspective of low trust of people to government was COVID pandemics, when Slovakia used to have very strict regulations, very strict rules for going on public, for quarantine, etc. But these rules were ever changing. There used to be press conferences by the government 2 times, 3 times a day. Nobody was really able to follow which rules are actually in place. And the government was more arguing each other. The coalition partners were arguing each other more than really governing the country, which I think resulted in strong resentment, frustration in broad society circles against the government, which of course Fico, as a very skillful politician and populist, was able to use for his own good.
COVID, as you mentioned earlier, COVID restrictions really made him popular, his party popular, and as far as I understand, the COVID restrictions and economy problems which followed them created a ground for those political parties and those political powers who were not very popular, if we are speaking about anti-establishment groups or Eurosceptic groups or any other groups which are creating the image of those who will fight the Euro Union bureaucracy. And from that point of view, do you have any information, insights, general understanding, where can be the next point of such parties arising to power? We really saw that in Hungary, and now we saw that in Slovakia, and actually even in Ukraine it was kind of a problem, but the full-scale invasion just messed it all, and we have another narrative here. But how do you think, where can be the next, I don't know, break point?
It's truly a great question. Some people would also call Meloni's government in Italy coming from same direction, even if their support and the support for Ukraine and international politics are in line with the rest of the European countries, but internally there are some policies set on very conservative, some would even say probably far-right positions. And that's likely a very broad trend that national populists, far-right, right-wing populism is rising across all the Europe. And we are watching the public polls from Germany, for example, the alternative for Deutschland is rising. The party which can be described as a far right. In Hungary, there's a case for years, of course, with the Orban in the government. Upcoming elections in Poland will be very important to see to which way country would go. Ruling party, PiS, is a conservative party, but there is a rising party Confederacja, which is based on very strong Euroscepticism, populism, and again, there are some features of far-right style of politics which might be necessary for PiS to form government with, and other countries also in Europe. So it's maybe not that surprising that after the stress caused by COVID, by all the troubles with the economic, this kind of politics is on rise and getting more power right now.
Is there any, can there be any common ground? You probably know that in Ukraine there was a big scandal after Elon Musk meme in Twitter and about Zelensky asking money from United States, and that's the narrative the anti-Ukrainian politicians in the United States are using to bolster their popular level. But some voices even in Ukraine spoke about looking for common ground between Ukraine, which needs weapon support to be fair, but it needs weapon support to fight for freedom and for the security of the European world at least. And how do you think, may there be any common ground between those who are being anti-Europe Union politicians or skeptical about state establishment, and from the one side, and from Ukraine on the other side? Is it possible? How do you think?
It's known that politics is art of possible, so hopefully yes. Just to be very clear, right now for Ukraine, the most important strategic partner is United States. If we compare the sheer numbers of support, military support and delivery of weapons, which are right now maybe the most important. Of course, financial help, humanitarian help is as important, but you really can't win a war with just those. So the military help is crucial. If you look at the numbers of military help or support, United States is the most important partner. Unfortunately, European countries, European Union, even if they are trying really hard and support, for example, from Germany, Great Britain and other countries is important. If we take United States out of the equation, Ukraine just with the European support would go through very, very hard times. So if we're looking at this broad picture, the most important elections are upcoming US presidential elections. And then it's important within the Europe, we as a union, we keep the unity, and we try to explain the population of each country the importance of war ending in Ukrainian victory and not otherwise. And that's housework for each political leader, for each political party, to be able to convene message which are maybe not popular, but they are really important. Because if you are doing and saying just things which are popular, then you are simply a populist, but not a statesman. So right now, actually, we believe, and I believe we need in Europe more statesmen than populists, and leaders who are able to be courageous and responsible for their action and words. Because even if we say that all the remarks from Robert Fico and his party against Ukraine, against European Union were just words. And after elections, once they will be forming government, they will act differently. what matters, and they are changing the political scape we are living in, and they are moving the window of what's possible within the public space to be set publicly. So damage was already done, and even if they behave good, to put it in that way, the rhetoric is already shaping the space in a way which is not good for the countries, for Slovakia. It's not good for Europe, and it's not good for Ukraine.
Thank you, Matej. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for the insights and analysis of the consequences of elections. Hope to see you next time, maybe even here if you come to Odesa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a good time talking with you, and fingers crossed with everything you have on your plate.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a briefing of Matej Kandrik from ADAPT Institute in Bratislava, Slovakia. Our next briefing will be at noon. Watch our announcements and stay with us.